I'm Dixie Hibbs, and I operate Wickland here in Bardstown, Kentucky. We are open for showers and weddings and all kinds of events. And what I'm here today to talk to you about is one of the things closest to my heart, old quilts. Now, everybody knows what a quilt is. It's 3 layers of fabric and filler and backing that keep you warm. And old quilts have wonderful memories attached to them. You remember cuddling up under them on grandmother's couch or her feather bed. You watched her sew them, put them together. And on March 24th, a couple of weeks, March 24th, from 10 to 4:30 at Wickland, we're going to share wonderful old quilts from people here in Nelson County. And we're going to give you the opportunity to come, and we're going to even let you touch them, because we're going to give you a plastic glove. Most quilt shows you go to, they're saying, no, 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 don't touch them. Well, if you put your glove on, you can still feel the wonderful quilt and the stitching and all. And I know the temptation's there, so why fight temptation? Put your glove on. Wickland is a 2.5-story home built in 1828, and it has wonderful architecture, lots of room, great feelings. There's a great atmosphere in Wickland, and it's a perfect place for us to bring these old quilts. And the oldest one we're going to share is 1852, made here in Nelson County. I'm not going to tell you a whole lot about it. You're going to need to come and see it. But we have quilts from local quilters like Louise Burns. We have quilts from the homemakers here in Nelson County. And I have some quilts behind me that I've brought in today that belong to my family. Most every family that's been around for a while and has anyone who knows how to use a needle has a quilt in it. We're going to put the stories of the quilts with these quilts. They'll be spread across the sofa, on the beds, hanging on the railings of the stairway. We'll put them on tables. We'll put them everywhere we can show them so that you can get up close and look at the wonderful handwork. And you're going to stand there and you'll say, wonder why she put these colors together. Well, in the story, it may say that's all the fabric she had, that she saved the scraps from sewing for 5 or 6 years in order to make that quilt. The stories are always interesting, and they remind us not only of how difficult it was in the 1930s during Depression to find enough fabric to make quilts, but they had to find pieces. They did not have money to go to the store and buy yards of fabric. They shared their pieces with each other, and they made some beautiful quilts. Behind me now, we have a pattern called 7 Sisters. There are 7 stars in this pattern. This quilt is fairly new, within the last 20 years, and it's not quite finished. I'm going to have it finished for the owner before the quilt show to show you how beautiful this is. Behind me here is the oldest quilt that I have, and that was made in the 1880s by my great-great-great-grandmother. And directly behind me, you'll see a cathedral window, orange and gold and green. Now that's a quilt my sister and I made. In fact, it's the only quilt that my sister and I have ever made together, and we gave it to our mother as a gift at Christmas. This quilt, called Beach Bud, very simple quilt, scrap quilt, was made by my great-great-grandmother. So I have 4 quilts from 5 generations of my family, which will be on display there at Wickland on Saturday, the 24th of March. There is a charge because it's being hosted by the Nelson County Democratic Women. We are raising money to use for various things in Nelson County, not just elections and political, but we actually support lots of other charitable things here in Nelson County. $15 charge to come in is an all-day ticket. You can come, look around, and then you can have a program at 11 o'clock. Now, the program is a sit-down program. You don't have to stand and listen. And we have 2 sections of it. One, I'm going to tell you the story of my quilting family, my quilting ancestors from Eastern Kentucky. And to do so, I'm going to use quilt patterns. And what I'm talking about are pieces like this. This is known as ocean wave. Now, what in the world would I be using ocean wave in Eastern Kentucky? Well, the story of my father's family and all those great-grandmothers I mentioned, I used the quilt blocks to tell you about the marriages, where they lived, what happened in their life, and all up until today. And that's the first part of the program, using my great-granddaughter. She helps me put them up on a pole so you can see them. And then the second half of the program is going to be given by Brenda Stewart of Bloomfield, and she's going to talk about documenting your quilts. How do you keep up with the information? Have you inherited quilts from your family and you don't know anything about them? How do you find out? Her program is directly after the one I give, And this program starts at 11 and should be over by 11:15, but with 2 sections you're going to learn not only how to use the quilt blocks in telling a story, but also how to document and how to preserve your quilts. We give this program twice, because if you get there late, if you don't get there till noon, you miss the 11 program. But we're going to give it again at 2:30. So you have the opportunity, if you get there and want to go have lunch downtown, shop a little, come back out to Wickland, that one ticket is good for the whole day. If you have any questions, or if you have a really unusual quilt that you might like to offer to exhibit, you can give me a call at 502-507-0808, Dixie Hibbs at Wickland. And if we have room to exhibit this, we are welcome, and particularly one that has a very interesting story, because everyone loves the stories about the quilts. You may see in front of me this old quilt. I love this period. This is 1890 to 1910. And this quilt is unusual, and I call it almost charm. A charm quilt is a quilt with one pattern, and you only have that one piece of fabric anywhere in the quilt. Every other piece, every other patch, every other section is a different print or a different color. It's very difficult to do that. You have to have a lot of friends to exchange fabrics with. And this one almost is a charm. I found a pattern in here twice, so it missed being a charm quilt by having it in here twice. But it's still interesting to see. It is worn. It has a wool batting in it, and you don't dare wash it in hot water, because that wool batting will shrink up and it'll look like seersucker before you get through. But all of these kinds of things, we'll also be talking to you there, showing you displays about old quilt tops and looking at the fabrics in them, trying to date them. Everybody wants to know how old their quilt is. Well, we're going to help you figure that out. Again, if you have any questions, just give me a call. I'll let you know anything you need to. We won't be serving you any food, but we will give you a chance to have a drink, either tea or water or lemonade, and we'll let you sit down while you're drinking that and listen to our stories. See you in Bardstown on March 24th.